Good evening, everyone. My name is Ronald Presner. I'm chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the town of Mount Pleasant, and welcome to this evening's meeting. We have 4 members of our board tonight. One couldn't make it, but I would like to first introduce the members of our board. We have a new member tonight, Adrienne Novak. She's her first time here, and we wish her a good evening, so to speak. All right, to my left is Kathy Niclario. She's the Secretary of Planning and Zoning. Then to her left is Mr. Herb Dorr, and to the far left is Mr. George Lapazos. And sitting in the table before me is Mr. Joseph Briganti, the Building Inspector for the town of Mount Pleasant. How we run the meeting is it's quite simple. When your application is called, you come forward. I will swear you in. I will then read your application aloud for the public record, and then you'll have an opportunity to explain why you need the zoning variance. When that's finished, I'll ask some questions, and then I'll refer some of the members of the board if they have any questions regarding your application. Then I will ask, once that's completed, then I will ask, who is anyone here for or against an application? Once that's done, the application is finished, and what we have done recently is that rather than you go home and wait until late at night to find out if the decision's been made, we will make the decision right after your application. We have 4 members tonight, which means if 2 of the members decide to vote against your application and it's a tie, the application is denied. Just to give you a heads up on it. So with that being said, our first application is 2416 Joseph P. Soricelli. Good evening.
Good evening.
Raise your right hand, sir. The testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I swear.
And you are
Joseph Soricelli.
related to?
The other Joe Soricelli
Yes,
right behind me.
Figured as much.
Yeah. Different middle initials.
This is for the fencing that's going to go around the property at 17 Cambridge Street in Valhalla, correct?
Yes, I'm looking to enclose the backyard.
It's an appeal is from the decision of the building inspector for the town of Mount Pleasant, and your property is designated on the tax map in the town of Mount Pleasant as 89/117.15-1-40, and the application is for a proposed 6-foot-high fence on a legal substandard parcel of 7,500 square feet in the R10 zone. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. At present, the standard fence height is 4 feet, and you're looking for 6 feet.
Yes.
Okay. Describe what you want to do.
I am looking to enclose the back portion of my property right here in the backyard, going from the back corner here along the side down to the patio and meet at the corner at the shed in the back corner, then back from along the back side from the shed again, and right up here to the also back corner of the house. So just the rear 50% of the property. I drove around my neighborhood and I found the most common fence there was a 6-foot white vinyl fence. I saw a lot of variations of solid in the front, solid on the side, lattice on the side. I'm looking to do solid sides with the lattice in the front of the on the front side, so mainly the driveway portion, and then again on my neighbor's side where that other really will just be a gate. There won't be much fence there other than a few inches of it.
When we were out there, I didn't know where your property line ended with your neighbor as to compared to his driveway.
So the property line, my property line is 5.5 feet off of my house. So They pushed their driveway right to the edge once it was surveyed 2 years ago when we closed on it. So if you saw in my backyard, their asphalt, and then there was a little bit of a buff out with some stones that they just paved in there, that goes to the edge of their property line. So it's essentially a few inches before that big, before their garage.
Okay. What color are you going to do that fencing?
The original proposition is white. I also was looking into a two-tone option where I was thinking a gray fence and a white with white spigots, but I'm applying for the white at the
I'm
moment.
going to give you a suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
As an owner of a white fence,
Mm-hmm.
if it's facing the west or facing the north,
So this is the west side right here.
right, and you're going to get a mold buildup on the white, and it's a maintenance problem.
Okay.
But if you go with the gray or, a brown or something like that, it's not as noticeable.
Okay.
Because when you buy that fence and you do it in white, you might as well get yourself a power washer.
I actually just got one.
Okay, then you're good to go then.
Great.
I have no further questions. Mr. Dorr?
Start like you normally do.
No, I'm going different tonight.
Seniority. Yeah, I guess so. Tell me the reason why it has to be 6 feet, or you're requesting 6 feet.
This is Jack. Jack is my very large German Shepherd. This is a 4-foot pillow right here. You can see the ruler down here where it comes to just about 4 feet. Jack could very easily clear a 4-foot fence. It's really a safety issue for him. The second, not so close but still very close issue is I have 2 teenage girls and an infant that I would like a little bit of privacy for in the backyard.
I'll give you for the kids, but not the dog.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen a small little puppy jump 6 feet from that standpoint, and I've got a 162 Greyhound that can jump 6 feet, but it's a 4-foot fence, and you just train them not to jump.
Yes.
That, self-induced type thing, that doesn't cut it. But I'll give you the privacy from that standpoint with your children, but the dog is not cutting it as a reason.
But the privacy is.
Yeah. But
Thank you.
privacy, I get you. I mean, if you want to make your backyard into, nobody can see it, okay. George?
Mr. Lapatos?
I have nothing, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Novak?
No questions at this time.
Okay. Is there anyone here for or against this application? It's all quiet on the western front. What do the board members like to do on this regarding this application?
You want to do it? I want me to do it.
George?
Mr. Chairman, do you wish to bring it to a vote now prior to going into business session?
Yes.
All right. Based upon the application as submitted, I vote aye.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Dorr. Ms. Novak?
Aye.
All right, chairman votes aye, it's carried 4-0.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay.
You didn't notice that?
That's out of there. Good, it's fine.
No, it wasn't. Blue Down the neighbor called me and had it. Yeah, it's on. he sent it.
Next application is 2418 Brian
Yeah, it was on
Kantrowitz.
Friday night. He doesn't live there. He bought a property for his mom. So what happened is the neighbor was calling and having the son, she got it in her yard.
Good evening.
Good evening. This is the client, Brian Kantrowitz,
Okay.
and I'm Jim Coleman. I'm the architect.
All right.
I'm gonna sit, is that okay with you?
Be
Thank
right
you,
there.
sir.
Raise your right hand, sir. Testimony about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I swear.
And you are?
James Coleman,
And you are with?
James Coleman Architecture Studio.
Okay. This is regarding the Kantrowitz property located at 553 Warren Avenue, located in Thornwood, New York, which appeal is from the decision of the building inspector for the town of Mount Pleasant. Tax map, it's section 89/112.6-2-45. And the application is for a proposed attached single-car garage, a new covered entry to an existing single-family dwelling on a legal standard lot of about 11,500 square feet in the R10 zone, correct?
Correct.
You're looking for 4 variances.
Correct.
First one being front yard setback, 30 feet required. You're proposing 25 feet, you're asking for a 5-foot variance. That's probably for the porch.
The porch and the garage.
Second one, side yard setback, 10 feet required. You're proposing 6, variance of 4.
Correct.
All right, and then maximum lot coverage, 20%, existing is 13, so you're going for 21%, or just 1.1% increase in the lot coverage.
Correct.
And finally, the maximum fence height on the side yard fence, only 4 feet required, 6 feet is what you're requesting,
Correct.
okay? When we were out there, we didn't have any drawings.
Yeah, I apologize for that.
Yeah, all I saw was a driveway going down and a garage underneath the house.
Correct.
All right. So it's hard for me to envision at this point what you're doing.
So, yeah, let me, here's a set of drawings.
Do we have drawings here?
Yeah.
All right.
And of the variances, the side yard is the most significant. So this is the drive you saw,
Yeah.
which floods. And this is where we're proposing a garage and to fill this in at the level of the house. So you can
All
see
right, so what you're doing is, the existing garage will be turned into like a room of
Yes,
some
correct,
sort, yeah.
correct.
a
In the
roo-
basement,
In the
yeah.
basement. And then you're going to fill in for the garage, and then put a concrete floor,
Yes,
and then you come straight out to the street.
correct.
Okay. Do you have what this thing is gonna look like? This is the,
That's the rendering, yeah. And then on the next page, you'll see the elevation. So this is the new garage.
that's a big garage.
It's 32 by 26.
Now, the question is, on this garage, the 32 feet wide, how wide is that driveway?
The existing driveway is, the garage is right here. So this is the scale, 16 scale. So it's about, probably 22 feet.
Now, there's a stone wall along the side of this driveway, correct?
Right.
Okay, and then there's a lot to the right, left of it, if you're facing the front of the
Correct,
house.
right.
And who owns that lot?
So this lot is all the Cantor's property. This lot is their lot.
It's their lot, okay.
Actually, this part is. So this is, it was a, variance was granted in 2006 to subdivide this property.
Right.
So this was one property, and this sort of flagship was cut out, and this lot was cut out. So this is one lot.
All right, so that was, I forgot his name, on the file. Who was the contractor? Solis. Yeah, okay. I have no problem with the front porch. We do this a lot with people that want to get wet, you know, and that seems to not be a problem. The garage, it's a big garage, 33 feet, and,
And the reason for that is to create an access out of this finished basement, because we're closing it off, out here.
wait, this was being filled in.
This is being filled in, so, but there will be, this will be a concrete slab, so this
Right.
will be a room underneath it as well.
So we're putting in the structural beams underneath?
Structural beam and a concrete deck. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now I understand what you're doing.
And then this was the tricky part here, the lot actually comes up past the corner of the house.
Right.
So this becomes a side yard rather than a rear yard. because it's past the corner of the house.
And how deep is this garage again?
26 feet.
So actually, it's a two-story structure. You'll have like a basement area under the garage, and you got a garage on top.
Right.
So we have a basement, you have two rooms actually in the downstairs area.
And that basement will be fully below grade.
Right.
And then there will be a room, that's sort of under the roof.
Right.
Half story.
And this is access to that basement room?
No, that's only access from inside the house.
All right. I'm looking at this for the first time, so you have to bear with me. I'm
Sure.
trying to... So we're not filling it in, we're actually making,
Right, so we'll build, all these walls come out.
right,
Existing walls. So this is a new concrete retaining walls, which will connect to this basement.
all right, and that's going to be what, wood reinforced concrete, or is it going to be cinder block?
It'll be a cinder block foundation, but it'll be a steel beam and then corrugated metal decking with five-inch concrete deck.
Suggestion? Go with the concrete.
Okay.
Because when you start to get hydraulic pressure off the side, I don't care what block you use, it's going to bow in a little.
No, I agree. Okay. And then this will all be fill.
All right. I have no further questions. Ms. Novak, you have any questions that you would like to ask the person?
Are you taking out the entire brick wall that runs along the side? Are you taking out that, I'm sorry, not brick wall, are you taking out the stone wall?
I think you want to remove the stone wall at the property line.
I would if possible. I have two young kids, and that thing is just a hazard for tripping. So you're just talking about the like half wall?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to, but it's not a deal breaker either way for me.
No further questions.
All right. Mr. Dorr?
Which stone wall are you talking about?
The one that was on the left side that we weren't sure where the property line?
On the street side?
Yeah,
Along the street?
if you're facing the house, there's the stone
The
wall on the
farthest-
left.
No, I know
side.
the stone wall. I didn't know if she was talking about the one that went straight down the driveway or the
Yeah.
one parallel
I
with
mean,
the...
that's a hazard too, obviously. with
Yeah,
kids.
because I saw the fence you had on it.
Yeah.
And that one's coming out, because that will all be
Right.
filled.
If that was part of
So,
it.
if I'm interpreting what I'm hearing you tell the chairman, the current space where the driveway goes down is going to be a room of some type.
Correct.
Now, Joe, that can't be livable unless he puts access windows, correct?
Maybe to escape the rescue opening?
Right, so
Or, yes.
is that in the plans for this?
Well, I didn't see, I didn't think he submitted the plan to see.
Right,
the
so-
variance yet.
So we'll include that.
If he gets the variance, then he'll submit.
There is a rated corridor out from that space, and then we'll need light and air to meet the building code. So we'll comply with the building code for that space.
Okay.
Ms. Lapazos?
Yeah, just with regard to the, I understand the dynamic with, it appears as though it's the rear of the structure that abuts the neighbor in Lot 2.
Right.
What's the height going to be on this finished garage?
It's, I think it's about, as mentioned, so to the ridge would
Yeah, it
be
does look
probably
like
like
it's the whole
22
of the
feet.
22 feet?
Yeah.
See, one of the things that, and I don't know yet if there's going to be opposition to the application. Again, this is only with regard to the, what is the,
The side yard.
yeah, the side yard setback. Just to gauge the reason why you decided to locate the garage here as opposed to using all the available space, because the depth of the driveway is such that it appeared that this was, I don't want to say arbitrary, but it had flexibility in terms of its location, and it could have been placed further up, still giving you the square footage you were looking for, not impacting on the function of the driveway, and yet would have less of an impact on the owner of Lot 2. Was there a reason why it was pressed back so far as to create the need for what in effect is a 40% variance?
Right. So a couple things. This is very well screened. Trees are taller than the building. And then this
Well, you know, we
house-
did a site visit.
Oh, yeah,
so-
right.
Yeah,
So
we were
that's
there.
right. So the entrance to the house into the kitchen which, sort of important from the garage, is at this back corner. So
you
that,
wanted to
that was,
capture that
that was the
opening?
reason to capture that, yeah. But I think, Brian would be flexible.
Well, again,
Concern.
the primary impact is gonna be on the owner of Lot 2.
Right.
So my question was geared towards addressing any opposition that might be heard from that property owner.
And I believe they're comfortable with the plan, right?
Yeah, I mean, just briefly, the reason we're doing this, we have a 2-car garage now. I don't need to spend this money on another one. We just have multiple flooding because the driveway goes down, like he was saying about the static pressure comes through the rock wall. We lost the basement a few times and we just don't want to spend the money on it again. So this is really to mitigate that. So 5 feet up or back to make you guys happy is not the issue. This is a practical issue. The people in Lot 2 are close friends of ours. We vacation together quite regularly. They've seen the plans. Luckily enough, their house happens to be built way further away from their rear line than building code would call for. So it's a long haul from that line to their house. So our kids spend every night in each other's yard. They're the last people on earth that are going to oppose it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question. The height of the garage, you have an open space in the top there.
Correct.
What is it used for?
So that's accessed from this bedroom, so it's just a sort of additional space.
Is that a living space?
This is a living space, right?
Well, what about this space? You said there's an access.
Right.
No, storage.
Storage,
Yeah, we don't need more living space.
because it's
But,
a little bit
uh,
awkward, it's down some steps.
Yeah. Mr. Briganti, have you seen these plans?
James, you want to point it out?
Yeah. So it's right here, so this attic space,
Yeah, it's the bonus room.
yeah, will be accessed from a stair to the floors below this, from this, is that from a bedroom? Is that storage?
Mostly to store my kids' stuff, because it's a lot. Just
Yeah, it's
storage
not-
though.
It's attached to the house. You can go 2.5 stories, 35 feet if you want.
I'm just questioning whether it's a livable space or not.
No, it won't be livable.
Because you have,
It needs a ceiling height for it to be livable, so I don't even know what the
I don't
ceiling
even know what the ceiling height is, but it seems to appear to be as high as the ceilings in the bedroom.
What is the ceiling
So,
height?
so it's sort of a narrow space that's under the
It's like
roof.
an attic space.
It's an attic space, but, I mean, there would be a habitable space at that window. But it would be legal to have that as a bonus room. It wouldn't be over on any of the zoning requirements. But this is septic, right?
No.
So, right, so we're not adding a bedroom.
So it can be typically used as a bonus room, finish it as storage or office, whatever you want, as long as it meets the ceiling height.
Okay. Is there anyone here for or against this application?
Mr. Chairman, based on the testimony, I move to approve, motion to approve this.
I have a motion to approve the application. Do I have a second?
That'll be with respect to all 4 variances as submitted?
Yes.
I vote aye.
Okay.
A second.
All right. Ms. Novak?
Vote aye.
Okay. Chairman votes aye, so it's carried 4-0.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Best of luck.
Would you do, break your ankle?
Achilles might be worse.
I said, he fell in the drive.
Surgery next week. Yeah. I know, it's a long haul.
Well, at least you can't run away from a fight. I see
Have I been
everybody
called yet,
fully
sir?
armed over here. You got all these guns
18.
here.
Trevor Spearman, architect. Good to see the board members and new board member. It's been a few months. I will say I do generally try and avoid you guys.
Raise your right hand, Mr. Spearman. Testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So
It
help
is.
you God. Okay. And this is regarding Nana Hagen 420 LLC?
Correct.
Okay. Where is your office located?
245 Sawmill River Road, Suite 106.
Okay.
in Hawthorne.
This is regarding the premises located at 420 Nanahagan Road in Thornwood, New York. And it's, again, appeal from the decision of the building inspector of the town of Mount Pleasant. And it's designated on the tax map as 89/107-17-2-16. And the application is for a proposed subdivision currently seeking planning board approval to subdivide an existing lot into 2 lots. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. The existing single-family dwelling will remain on lot number 1 and restored. The proposed new home will be placed on lot number 2, which is a legal standard parcel of 2.08 acres in the R40 zone. And the variance you're seeking is the front yard width, correct?
When measured at the front yard setback, yeah.
Right, and the 100 feet's required, you're proposing 72 feet, and you're asking for a 28-foot,
29, yeah.
27.9,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
28-foot variance, okay. It's all yours.
Okay, great. So, as stated, it's a over 2-acre parcel. We are looking to subdivide the current access being utilized by a house that sits there, remains, and we want to renovate. It was built in 1776, before, I guess, America was America, is here, accessed from Nanahagan Road. That has a driveway easement that we do not touch. We do not affect anything that is regarding that front or northern over 40,000 square foot lot. Where we have on the west here is Davidson Drive. Davidson Drive is a town map street, water, sewer, utilities. Perhaps Phil Grimaldi, who's with me this evening, will speak more to the easements and right-of-way concerns. But this is where we would pull into Davidson Drive, and Davidson Drive, for its first portion, is owned by 412 Nanahagan. For its next portion is actually owned by 420 Nanahagan Road. So we actually own the road that we're looking to access our rear lot from. That Davidson Drive would then open up here, and because it is in the R40 zone, it is measured, the front yard setback is not a simple 60 feet when it is on a street that is less than 50 feet wide. The code requires we add 25 feet to the 60-foot front yard setback at 85 from the center line of the street of Davidson. So when we do that, we come back here and we have this width of our front yard setback, which turns out to be 72.1 feet, I believe. Now, if we continue further down Davidson Drive, it actually feeds into number 5 and number 6 Davidson Drive. And those were mapped out also on a separate sheet. I do have one small handout, if I may. It just indicates where other flag-like or irregular lots exist with their width at front yard setback. So if I may hand that out.
Go ahead.
Thanks. So here we can just take about a quarter-mile length of Nanahagan Road, starting on the east of this map, and we can see about 17 or 18 flag lots. So it is kind of the fabric of the neighborhood that there are flag lots readily available. Our width of 72 feet is marked on the subject property. It actually is only exceeded by one other property. And the lot width at front yard setback is very often in the 25 to 40 foot range. So we don't believe our request of at 72 feet is a substantial request at all. So with that being said, I'd either like to hand it back to the chairman or perhaps Phil Grimaldi if he has some things to add.
Let me ask you this. I'm looking at the map. You have the line drawn on the property line, and you got a steel, which I haven't seen in years, a solid steel pool in that backyard.
Yes, we do.
Now, why can't that opening be wider?
The pool location is a pool it was in somewhat disrepair but salvageable, and we wanted to keep that pool. So our property line is basically driven by keeping the request in front of this board to a minimum. In other words, we've kept and maintained a full 25-foot here. We've maintained 25-foot off of the pool, and that is where the property line then can get towards Davidson Drive. That way, we don't come to this board, if this line was drawn a little closer here, requesting yet another variance for the existing lot number 1.
Because we drove down that Davidson Drive, and it's pretty narrow. It's a narrow street, basically speaking. And there are several houses at the end of the street. I think there's 3 houses.
There's 2, from I believe 2 at the end of the street, number 5 and number 6 Davidson.
Right.
And there's one that utilizes Davidson also, the property earlier on Davidson. That address is actually, I believe, 412 Nannyhagen Road, and they would make a left into their driveway. I think I have that here somewhere. So you can see here, you come down Davidson. This is 412 with a driveway on the side. Then you go through the property that is part of our property, and then you would go into number 6 here and number 5 here, Davidson. One of which is a flag lot with about 50 feet, I think, 52 feet on their width at front yard setback.
And when do you think that that lot was originated?
I don't have the exact date.
Mr. Grimaldi? No. I trust you, Mr. Grimaldi. You can use the microphone.
Okay, my name is Philip Grimaldi. I'm the attorney for the applicant, and I had submitted to the board yesterday morning, I'm sorry I was so late, just my analysis under 267B, 3B of the town law. And I think Trevor didn't specifically mention every point, but I think his presentation basically covers those areas, including, the fact that, it's not really going to have an impact on the neighborhood or a detriment. But answering your question about when it was subdivided, in 1968, Deckers Davidson owned everything. He owned 420, both the lot that we have here. He owned 5 Davidson, 6 Davidson. He owned 412 Nannyhagen, and he owned a lot in the back that was conveyed to the New York DEC. So anyway, Mr. Davidson was very prescient, because in 1969, when he began subdividing, he reserved for himself this 30-foot right-of-way known as Davidson Drive, even though he didn't need it because he had access over Nannyhagen Road, but he reserved that to himself anyway. And the funny thing is that when and he sold a lot in 1969 to Iannaccino, who I understand still lived there. He sold in 1968 a lot to Donald Van Cook. Van Cook was 5 Davidson, it was 6 Davidson in the back. Van Cook didn't have any access, so in 1969, Iannaccino had to give the easement to Van Cook. So that's basically how they get access. And the other way they get access is in 1993, a subdivision plat was filed, and it depicted Davidson Drive. So, as the board may be aware, when you have a roadway and it's on a filed subdivision map, then the abutting property owners have the right to use that. And those are both ways that we have access to that road, both from the grant in 1969 and the fact that it was on a filed subdivision map. So,
Now, who has the responsibility for that road?
well, I believe there's an agreement, and we don't have any issue with contributing to the upkeep of that road. That's not even an issue. I believe the 3 owners now, 5, 6, and 412, maintain it. But we're happy to contribute to that. That's not an issue.
Well, if you have other people contributing and then you're going to be using it,
Yeah,
it would be nice to put a couple of coins into the pot to help
absolutely.
pay it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I have no further questions at this time. Mr. Dorr?
I just want to hear who's for and against it before I have any questions.
Okay. I assume everybody here is for this particular application. Am I correct? Raise your hand. Okay.
Oh, boy.
You have friends here, Phil.
So I don't know if you want all these deeds and everything. Do you need them?
For the record, the town record, yes, I think that would be.
Okay, I'm going to hand, and they're clipped by 412 Nanahagan, 6 Davidson, and 5 Davidson.
So it's my understanding that when Mr. Davidson did all these subdivisions, he had no choice but to create a road so that the people that bought these subdivisions can build their homes. Am I
Yeah,
correct?
well, he maintained it for himself too. He sold a lot in 1968, and he didn't give that owner. That was to Van Cook. He didn't give that owner. He was 5 again. He didn't give him the right 6. I'm sorry. He didn't give him the right of access. So if you look in there, in 1969, Iannaccino, the owner of 412, gave him the easement. Okay, so and then in '69, simultaneously with Iannaccino's grant of the easement, Deckers Davidson sold to Iannaccino. So it was created through an easement, but subsequently, when there was a subdivision map filed, it became a road on a filed subdivision map. And as you know, in the town code, they don't distinguish when they define streets between private and public streets.
Well, we always talk about 267B, and you're
Yeah.
right about it.
And I summarized it in the letter. I mean, I won't
Right.
talk
And we
about
talk
it.
about, is it self-created? I don't know
Well,
of any application
that's
that's
not.
not self-created. Does it have a detrimental effect on the community? We'll hear in a second. Does it have a benefit? Well, it has a benefit to the property owner.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
After you
it's the
finish.
property, because what this is, this LLC corporation is building the house, refinishing a house, and it's going to be going on the market, and then this other piece of property is going on. So it's an investment property, 2 properties that are as an investment. Am I correct?
Well, yeah, but let me say this.
No, just
yeah.
Okay, that's all I want to know. It's an investment property. So,
Well, let him finish,
No,
then we'll
so-
speak to it.
with that being said, I want to hear, like Mr. Dorr said, I want to hear what the people who are directly affected one way or another about this property have anything to say. Since you're all there, is there any one person that would like to speak for the group?
Absolutely.
If you want, it'd be more fine, but I just want to start the motion going here. Come on. One at a time. All right. And you are?
Frank Calabro, 5 Davidson Drive.
Okay,
And I'm Ellie Calabro, 5 Davidson Drive.
okay. Raise your right hand. Testimony about to give about the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Okay.
The issue lies, I believe,
Use the
Davidson
mic.
Drive.
Mike, hold the mic up.
Hold the mic up and put it in the stand.
Sorry. Davidson Drive is very narrow. I measured it, it's 15 feet. I went ahead and measured Lilac, 22 feet, Eton, 18 feet, Richard, 20 feet, Virginia, 24 feet. So it's narrow. And it's supposed to be a thoroughfare to go through, not park on. So there's work being done now. I mean, to make it easy, they park there and do the work. You know, be neighborly. There's no problem with that. But to build a house, that could be a real problem with the big trucks. We don't have an agreement to take care of the road. We participate in plowing, we share the cost, but it's starting to deteriorate. potholes. I go out there and fill the cracks with tar to try to, we don't have an agreement in place. So with big equipment on it, I mean, it's really gonna fall apart. We're really concerned about,
What if they were able to take the trucks and run it through 420, the driveway through 420? Is that
I like that idea. I like that idea.
Is it something that can be done, or is it dangerous?
I mean, I believe it could be done, I also believe there is some kind of, in the deeds, some reference to sharing the cost of the maintenance of the road in your deed, actually?
I don't think so.
Okay.
There's something from the late
If there is, we can't find it.
We've always maintained the road.
What-
Davidson's never did
The
anything to
main concern
maintain it.
here is, we have a road that's how wide?
15 feet.
15
Yeah.
feet. If two cars pass each other, especially if you have like a truck or something,
You have to
their
stop.
mirrors are gonna hit.
You have to stop.
Exactly.
Right,
The mirrors are gonna hit.
here's the issue, and that might be a planning issue. What we're asking you for today, Mr. Presner, is that one variance, and it's whether that variance will have an impact. Like I said in the letter, but for that pool, we wouldn't even have to be here. And these comments would be properly addressed to the planning board. And again, we abut this road that's on a filed map, and we have a
I
right
agree
to
with you,
utilize it. So, and again, that might be a conversation between the neighbors and the applicant about the road, or maybe if it could be wide. It's a 30-foot right of way. 30 feet is pretty wide.
But what's the actual width?
It's, well, he said, what,
15.
15? Right?
15 to 16.
Yeah, I measured.
15.
The reason I say say this is, well, even though we are a zoning board and the planning board does a lot of, I'll say the structural layouts of properties, a lot of times when this board sees a clear and present danger to a certain application, and we've had this, we've denied an application. I'm not saying we're denying this, I'm just saying when we look at something, we don't look at it just from a zoning point of view, but if we look at it because we're sort of like an arbitrator. And as you know, I've always said this many times, nobody leaves here with a full loaf of bread, right? So in our case, in this case here, we try to find some compromise so that the developer can develop his property and that has little impact on the people that live on that street. I think that's what we try to do.
And that's a reasonable position, but my point is right now, we're just looking for that one variance. The planning board still has to give us subdivision approval. So the
Right.
planning board could say exactly what you're saying, and Mr. and Mrs. Calabro are concerned with the width of this, and they think it might be, hey, what can you guys do to improve that? But here, we're just saying, look, there's a pool here, but for that pool, we wouldn't even be here today. So you're looking, we're looking at just getting that one variance, so we could go back to the planning board, and these issues could be addressed. Because, you know,
Will you address them before the planning board?
But
I will address them.
Yeah.
if we're here now, let's talk
Yeah,
about it.
well, this is the zoning board,
Why
but-
should we come back again?
You'd have
There
to
is
go
a
before the
safety
planning
issue,
board
though,
for their-
in that property. There's
what they do.
safety issues with that road also. There's another thing is that the garbage, there's no garbage truck that comes down there. You have to bring your garbage out to Nanahagan Road. We have a neighbor that doesn't really like that we have to put our garbage, all three residents, out on Nanahagan Road, abutting his property. So now that's going to be 4 people with garbage. Okay, so then we have the narrow road.
Because you can't get a garbage truck up there.
No,
They can't turn
no, they
around.
can't turn
No, you
around.
can't. You either
And
go
we
in
widened
and you
our
back out.
road, we
Reason being, yeah.
widened our property, took our property, made it a little wider so that you can have the mailman turn around at least. So, you know, I feel, I oppose it because I think they could probably go through their property on 412 and do the driveway straight across, and they would have their own driveway.
It's a
Why do they have to
possibility.
impose on a private road for 40 years?
They own that private road. You see,
You have access to it, but you don't have,
we own it, we have title to it, and Mr. and Mrs.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes?
can you stay there, let us hear the public? Because it's not supposed to be between you and them.
Yeah.
It's between you and us.
You said
I understand
something
that, so
that's
I
not-
understand that. You hold it, and then, Mr. Chairman, you address it to the chairman after they've had their choice. It's not a battering, because some of the issues that are being brought up, as important as they are to this board, they're also planning board issues. So it's a combination in finding the medium ground here from that standpoint. So please hold your stuff there, and like I asked, I wanted to hear what they had to say, then you'll have your choice again. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Because otherwise, the record's gonna get all messed up.
We're not opposed to new neighbors.
We're not
we welcome
opposed
that.
to the
We
house.
welcome people
Yeah.
making the community better. It's just that road that's the problem.
Yeah.
And if we have an alternative, and I know what he said, well, we own part of that. Well, that impacts us. So, that's our concern.
Well, the main concern is if the road was wider, you wouldn't have a problem.
We wouldn't have a problem, and we don't have a problem with them building a house. We have a problem with the driveway being put on Davidson Drive because it's a small road access. It's one way in, one way out. There's no other egress.
I mean, if they began building, let's say they got it, would they park vehicles on Davidson and work?
Yeah.
Or would they park on their property? You know, I don't want to see trucks loaded, they're going
We
to start
can't.
building, and for the next year, I got trucks up and down. I can't barely get out. That's not good.
No, that's why,
And it's a private road for a reason.
yeah, no, I understand your situation. I really do.
And there's other
I'm
people that would
trying-
like to talk to.
I'm trying to see if there is a way, if the construction work can be done on, for something, 420 Nanahagan, if it's possible to use it as a temporary measure so that it doesn't impact the people that are living on that area. Because if a truck goes down that street, the car's got to back up onto Nanahagan Road. And Nanahagan Road, in the mornings, I know,
Dangerous.
it's like a drag strip.
Yep.
Everybody thinks they're Mario Andretti. They go down there, they make the sharp turns going through the reservoir, and the only thing that stops them is the red light over at 120. It's scary. I have no problem with what you're trying to do. I'm trying to see what we can do for the people that live within that area.
And I appreciate that, Mr. President, but if you deny us,
We turned around, and it was all the way up in here.
that's the end of it. But if you say, okay, you have that little variance, and now go to the planning board and address the concerns of Mr. and Mrs. Calabro or Mr. and Mrs. Ianacino, or who else lives back there, then that's what we'll have to do, okay? But we're just looking for this one variance now.
Again. Okay, do
I
have any
think
other
you heard
points?
us. Would you
Okay, can
like
we
to
hear from the
speak?
next person?
We're
And then you
gonna
can express all
pass it
your
on.
comebacks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Okay, raise your right hand, sir. Testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, including the ladies behind you?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
My name is Carmine Yannicino Jr. Behind me are my sisters Lisa and Deborah. This property at 412 Nanahagan Road is where we grew up.
I'm sorry, can I cut you off? What's your residency? Where do you live?
Well, I live in Somers, New York.
Okay, so what house?
The first house, which is 412 Nanahagan Road. When you first turn into Davidson Drive, that is our house.
Okay.
My father built that house.
Right.
He was the first person to purchase that subdivision, so he was the first house to build it. He built it himself. He owns the road up to the back part of our property line. So he told us for many years, I own that road. I have an easement to have the two homes in the back pass through. So my understanding is that he only approved 2 homes. There was never approval for a third home. Davidson never said anything like that. So I have some concerns about adding a third home to the back of that property. See, 5 and 6 Davidson Drive sit behind the entrance to this driveway that they're proposing. So they won't really see drive-by traffic. Since we're in the front, we have the traffic from 5 and 6, which is fine. Now we're going to add another property. I don't know who's going to build this house. I don't know how many kids they may have. I don't know any of that. Are we adding another 2, 3 cars to the road? Those are the things that are my concern. So we're concerned about that.
Secondly, when the town entered sewers, I forget what year it was, they dug up the road. It was quite a mess. It was a huge disturbance. I don't know if another home that wants access to Davidson Drive is going to pull from that sewer line or the gas line. What's happening with that? Is there a new line that has to be put in? Does it tap into an existing line? I've got some questions with
Well,
that.
those are planning board issues.
Okay.
Those are planning boards. All, what I'm looking at is how we can give the developer a chance to do his development and at the same time have a minimal impact on the people on Davidson. It's a narrow street,
It is.
all right? And each person owns a piece of that street. It's a mess, because it doesn't belong to the town. The town could come in and say, all right, we're gonna widen it, we're gonna make it 25 feet wide. You don't have that. And if you wanna widen the street, then you're putting a burden on, A, the people that own the properties along that area. You're also looking at the contractor who's gonna, wants to connect onto there. These are all additional costs and everything. I don't know.
Well, I can only speak on behalf of my family, and we don't oppose the subdivision where a home could possibly be put onto the property. That's fine. But we don't understand that because of the setback of that home. And I know that property pretty well because I was the one playing soccer on that open field with the Davidson boys. So that property is very wet. So that setback of the house, however they're going to handle it, it appears that it would be much easier access to their current driveway, which is relatively wide, and it goes up and it leads directly to Nat Hagen Road. So that's a separate conversation. But I'm not opposing the property to be subdivided. Like my neighbors, we're just questioning why Davidson Drive, because it is narrow. It's not suited for 4 or 5 homes or 3 homes.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, yeah. So my sister brought up a point. During some of the construction of the homes behind us, when trucks were going back there to build those homes, there's a pipe, there's a brook line that goes through our property underneath Davidson Drive, and it spills out to the far side of our property. More trucks are just going to continue to ruin that pipe and damage the road. So we're very concerned about additional traffic, heavy truck. In fact, trucks are coming on it now. So we are concerned over the traffic and the weight of the vehicles. Do you want to say something?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Anyone else have a comment to make? Raise your right hand, please. Testimony about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
And you are?
Gerard Pagello.
And Marianne Martin Pagello.
Okay, and where do you live?
We are at 6 Davidson Drive.
Okay, and that's at the end,
Yes.
left, right?
We are to the left when you get to
That's
the
when
end
you
of the
go down,
cul-de-sac.
You gotta make a U-turn in your driveway
Correct.
on Saturday, yeah, okay,
If you
I
saw
know.
us pulling down.
Sorry.
I don't really think that we have too much to add other than what the Calabros and Anaquinos have said. We have a nice relationship, the 3 of us, and without a formal agreement written anywhere, we have worked everything out with the plowing of the road and the maintenance of the road over the years. No issues at all. What makes us a little nervous is that we don't know the ultimate buyer of the proposed new lot, and it puts us into a bad position. If Trevor and Robert were still going to own it, if one of them was going to live there, we would feel really comfortable with both of them. We have a nice relationship with them also.
Well, it would make no difference if you sold your house,
Correct.
somebody that's living in
Right.
this house, say, you know, who's living here?
Correct.
So-
Well, hopefully, we've been there, and we all intend to stay there for a long time, so we have
How
a
long have
nice,
you been there?
25 years. And we're the new people on the block.
Yeah, we're staying.
And we have every intention of staying.
I think that the main issue it's construction equipment. I mean,
Agreed.
that's the real big issue. If you have one or two cars, or even three cars, they're not all coming out at the same time. Who goes to work, who comes home? That's one thing. But I think the big issue is construction equipment and using Davidson as a main artery for the construction of that piece of property, putting the home. Am I correct?
The road is, I would just say it's not in great shape right now. And as Carmine pointed out, there is a brook that runs underneath the road. And I don't think it's capable of handling any kind of heavy truck traffic while it's in its current state. And the other thing I might add, and this is probably not, I understand this is a zoning board right now, but the planning board, it would be nice to make an approval conditional on getting a formal agreement for the maintenance of the road and the snow plowing, et cetera, with that property, so that going forward, we would feel comfortable.
So what you're saying, what you're telling me is that it would be the responsibility of the new property owner to be responsible for a certain portion of the maintenance of Davidson Drive.
Right.
As all the other
Right.
people are.
Right.
I don't know who handles that. Ms. Briganti? Planning board's gonna handle that? Okay. Mr. Dorr, do you have any other?
Not for the civilians.
Yes?
I'm done with that. I mean, I want to ask them something now.
Go ahead.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
In looking at these plans, I know this is not zoning, but it goes to what I'm looking at from the standpoint of, if I'm interpreting this right, the current existing residence, from its position geographically, sewage goes to a station and then is pumped up to Davison.
Correct.
So then you're proposing a second for this new house going forward.
Correct, and we've run this by Dave Smith.
Okay,
Okay.
but I'm not worried about the engineering that side.
Yep.
What I am concerned in my suggestion is, I mean, right now you've got 3 houses coming in off of Davison. I understand listening to the history of the property, et cetera. What is preventing you guys from, I mean, I get it, aesthetics, the front of the house on the older house, coming in off of Nanahagan and having an easement here instead of this side, and coming in that way.
Well, there's, I think, sorry, at least a couple of complications there initially, is that the driveway off of Nanahagan is within an easement between 420 Nanahagan and the DC, a conservation easement. In that easement, there would be no obligation for them to allow another home access through that drive. The fact that we own that part of Davidson Drive was our thinking. I don't know if you want me to comment on what was just said, but we would have no problem with some kind of agreement to take on 1/4 of the.
I'm just looking at other alternatives.
Yeah, yeah,
Just
there's
for the
no.
record that we're looking at.
We looked at that as a possibility, and yeah, aesthetically it would be horrible for the old house, but
I can totally understand the DEC not playing ball
That-
to
no,
the
no,
extent
not
of
at all.
solving this issue for 3 families.
Correct.
Considering it's
correct.
8 million people living in the city.
Right.
All right, so that takes away that proposal of coming in. Oh, yeah, that's right. And we did have a letter submitted from New York City Environmental Protection stating that that agreement, the right usage of the right-of-way and agreement, so any additional usage of new parties using of the right-of-way require a new formal agreement. So they would have to redo their agreement
Correct.
in the city. And we all know what what that can cost to go down that road from that standpoint.
Well, not just the cost, I think, it may never happen.
I mean, to the token of the construction of a home and the construction vehicles on there, I mean, I understand the concern, but it's a temporary thing. I mean, yeah, it's a year of misery for those neighbors. I mean, it could be once you pull the driveway, all those vehicles are in that driveway.
Yeah, we could make a very large driveway with turnaround spot within the property. We kind of schematically show it for now. In addition, I know the planning board in previous jobs have even requested like a bonding to restore the road in its current condition, or certainly take up any damages that were caused at, you know, in that bonding insurance. I'm imagining that's coming, you know, and I would expect it.
No further questions, Mr. Chairman. George?
Mr. Lapazos?
I could appreciate, when I'm looking at 267B, 2, whether or not there's another feasible means of accomplishing basically access to the new proposed lot. I could appreciate the fact that the Department of Environmental Protection may be difficult to work with, and maybe there's a significant lack of faith that an application would be successful to have a new agreement drawn. But if you were to achieve the ability to run access to the new lot off of Nannyhagen using the existing drive, which goes, and when we did our site visit, it goes all the way to the edge of Lot 2 already. It's already paved. To give that new homeowner use of the driveway that already exists seems to me to be, it would alleviate all the concerns of the neighbors on Davidson. It would eliminate your need for a variance here. It would enable you, in effect, to counter almost all the complaints that have been raised, and it hasn't yet been explored. So all I'm suggesting is, because of the fact that it's a viable option, I don't know what the likelihood, maybe Mr. Dorr knows better what the DEP's likelihood is of approving a new agreement, but they had an agreement in place already to allow access to this edge of their parcel. I'm not sure that I would assume.
Well, just to be clear, that was not, it's not quite as you would think. What happened is there was a 1 acre lot over here, originally Davidson, David Deckerson, right? So when that parcel was purchased as a conservation easement by the DEP, I think it was for $22,000 30 years ago. There you go. They, as part of that, because the driveway was already on that acre, gave the easement. I don't think there's any way, you know, they would ever change or modify that easement.
But what I'm saying is, it doesn't actually require any additional paving. I mean, in effect,
I don't think paving's the issue.
environmental impact wouldn't be no greater if you granted an easement to the new proposed owner of proposed Lot 2 to use the existing paved drive.
But it wouldn't be on us to grant an easement to them, because this is property owned by the DEC. So it's not on our property to grant an easement.
What I'm suggesting is you use your drive, your property, Lot 1's property, and allow the proposed owner of Lot 2 to use that drive.
A big portion, George, of the driveway is already on the city's property. We can't give them an easement over the city's property. The city would have to agree to that. See, it's pretty substantial.
Again, you're the owner of the property for Lot 2, so, I mean, it would be your application to make if you want to gain the profit of selling Lot 2 as a buildable lot. All I'm saying is, because it hasn't even been explored, although I understand that there may be beliefs amongst several here that it would be a fool's errand, it seems to me that without having actually even explored it, it shouldn't be assumed that it's not an available, feasible option that would eliminate the need for the variance and the concerns of the neighbors on Davidson.
Right, look, let me just say this, and I don't know what he wants to do, but as the owners of Davidson Drive, we have the right not only use it, but to expand it, okay, to widen it. And that might be a feasible alternative, because 412, they turn in, they don't use the whole thing. So if we widen it, that could, but that's a planning issue.
Exactly, which is why I'm not going to address that, and I didn't raise that. I'm not concerned about Davidson as much as I know a lot of the people who are here are. All I'm concerned about is we have a variance application. we could eliminate it. You don't even need a variance, and I'm trying to help you explore that option, which although you may not be confident would be successful, since it hasn't even been explored, it seems premature to me to go to the, and again, it's a variance that has more issues with the planning board than it will with this board, but I could help you alleviate the need for it altogether.
So I can say that that would probably just, by me doing all the mean lot width and mean depth calculations on both lots to make it work almost tightly, right? I think 150 foot point something is on one of those numbers. There would be no physical way to come in from this direction and legitimately call anything a front yard and a rear yard 60 foot and 60 foot. I would have maybe about a 28 foot slither right here across the lot. And I think any home would be requesting a variance. So I think we would likely consider ourselves foolish now for thinking that we were eliminating variance when we probably come before this board for 3 or 4. I'm not sure what the number is, but you know, I mean, that's what I see here. There's no way to get a proper mean depth of lot or width of lot if we're coming in from that direction with front yard setback issues. And the house could be the same house. I guess the only difference is the driveway. So in terms of its location, we've got some maneuverability. It's a large lot, and you can see by the buildable area on the proposed, there's a good amount of wiggle room there, but not if we come in from a different direction.
What about, I know that the DEP's been taking over a lot of property. I was a member of Whippoorwill Club. They took half of the Whippoorwill Club, but they still could they could still play golf. The road that comes in off of Nanahaga, how far is that into the property that's controlled by the DEP?
So at times, it's entirely, the driveway is just over the line on the DEP line. And at times, it's about 50-50 kind of shared. It meanders through. And then the parking area that exists on 420 Nanahagan is all on the DEC property.
What if that driveway was within the confines of that, of property number 1?
Yeah, so it can't be because of the location of the curb cut. So the curb cut is, let's call it 2/3 on DEC side and 1/3 on our side, right there. And then the road or the driveway immediately more enters onto the DEC property. So there'd be no option to, I mean, moving a curb cut up farther is, you know, we have the brook, we have wetlands and steep slopes here too. It would be a non-option. And the bend in Nanahagan.
I know just from past experience that when the DEP wanted properties, and that they've made...
We would love to sell it to them.
They've made some considerations regarding, in this case, what we had was putting up buildings for the golf carts and a maintenance room. So you had these things, and they permitted it, but you couldn't use certain fertilizers and everything else. But in this case, maybe the DEP, since it's a simple driveway, could be something that we could look into.
I think it's more likely that the DEP might offer or want to actually just expand upon their conservation easement, because it's actually two different. There's a 1 acre conservation easement here, and then there's the actual reservoir land, which kind of starts down here. So.
Yeah, the reservoir is really nice. You got the planes flying over and dropping that gasoline into the reservoir. That's real healthy.
Chairman, I have a question here. I don't know if it's just verbiage the way people are talking, but 412 said they own Davison. You guys are saying you own Davison. There's easements. And somebody explain.
Here's the way it works. When Deckers Davidson subdivided the property, he kept a portion of Davidson Drive and he conveyed 412 to Yanakino, and they own the front portion. But it was subject.
So they do own that
they
front
do own.
piece.
Yes.
But you know, as George and Adrian can tell you, ownership is just a bundle of rights, and it doesn't mean it's total and exclusive. So when he did that, Deckers Davidson, he reserved for himself a right of way to use to go through the Yanakino property. And as I said in the beginning, I think it was prescient on his part, because he didn't need it, but he said, hey, maybe one day I'd like to subdivide this and use that portion. Now, again, I understand George's point, I understand your concerns, but it's whether the variance will have an impact. And but for this pool, he could have drawn the line here, we wouldn't even be here. And it's gonna be a planning board issue. They might say to us, no, you can't do this, or widen the road, or do something else, or maybe come in through.
But you can appreciate, all I was trying to do was save you from needing a variance. I saw a feasible, again, I don't know what the likelihood of success would be, but it's a feasible alternative to what you've come with that would obviate the need for a variance at all. You'd need 0% variance.
Thank you.
You wouldn't be here, and that's what my purpose was for bringing that out. Now, I understand that it may not be, again, I don't know what the likelihood is of working with the DEP to get this approval, but since the entire drive from Nanny Hagan to the lot line of Lot 2 is already paved, it's already a functioning drive, it seemed, again, worth exploring to me. But that said, Mr. Spearman pointed out that there's a lot of other issues. I could appreciate moving the house back further on the lot, closer to the DEP property, so you wouldn't have the long drive that you were concerned about. But again, these are just options that I thought were worth exploring.
I don't know if you'd be satisfied, again, you know, if we want to make this work, if we could go to the DEC and then you could see for yourself, not only the DEC, but also the presence of wetlands and everything, so we could come back to you and say, well, this is not a feasible alternative because of A, B, C, and D. And then you would say, well, gee, I guess Davidson Drive is the only alternative. That's one alternative. The other alternative is just get rid of the pool, and then we wouldn't have to be here as well. But again, your concerns, and I appreciate them. I know you're custodians of the town, and you got to look out for the neighbors. But these are planning board issues, and if the chairman or the members of the board say, hey, look, widen that, it's not acceptable to us, it's not a good means of access, then we have to do what we have to do, or we're not going to get anything.
Well, there's a letter here from the DEP.
Right, and it shows
From
that
Matthew,
he's kinda-
no, there's a letter from Matthew Castro, he's a property management supervisor. And in the letter, he's requesting information on the configuration of the subdivision, any maps, plans, or other documentation that would help the DEP understand the potential impacts to and the usage of the right-of-way. Now, the main concern is, he gives you a telephone number,
Yeah.
all right?
It's right
Give him
here.
a call and find out, throw a pen, he may say no. He may say it could be something, but at least it's something to look at. And to look as, you know, a little further, if that's the case. If we're going to talk about Davidson Road, maybe it has to be made wider. It's a planning board decision. But I look at it from a different point. I look at the whole picture. I can say, all right, that's fine, we'll give you the approval for the 75 feet, that's it. But there's more to it, and that's the thing that bothers me at this time. And maybe something we should sit back and think about for a while. Maybe adjourn it for next month's meeting.
See, all I'm suggesting is that it's a bit premature at this point without having, in effect, satisfied factor 2 to determine whether or not there's another feasible alternative. It appears as though, at least until the DEP weighs in on it, which their letter suggests they're inviting you to. They're asking you, come to us and tell us.
I think it's funny, though, and it's government, I think, at its finest to a degree, because they were notified that the plans are on file and available on a website, and yet they send a letter well after that, 3 or 4 weeks after being notified,
Do you want me to comment on New York
that,
City
oh,
government?
can you send us something because we want to see what you're doing?
It's not
Okay,
their
it's
responsibility.
available.
It's your responsibility to prove to them.
I
You're
think-
requesting something on their
Well,
property.
it's kind of like the IRS, right? It's your responsibility to
it
prove
kinda is.
the negative.
I mean,
It's,
if you're looking at thousands of acres of property and you're one little speck, for you to expect them to come after you, it
no,
is,
no, they
in
just,
my mind,
they've,
the right way to look at
in
it.
full disclosure, these plans have been out there for everyone to see.
Right,
They
before,
got the plan.
They got,
They
yeah.
already sent it to them.
Yeah.
I know I want to do one thing now. Adrian Novak would give her an opportunity to draw her sword and see where we can go from here.
I don't know if I'm highly qualified for that yet. I am kind of taking it all in. I did see
Okay.
the site. I agree with George. I do see your problem, and honestly, I don't really know how, if trucks could get down that. That was a hard turn. There's a lot of dirt. But I do agree that there are possibly other options that at the very least could be explored before we say there's no other options at all.
So I think I know where you're going, so maybe we could, I think Robert wants to speak, but.
We just have to go on the road.
Just have to swear in.
Testimony about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
That's right.
Okay.
Robert Monte, part of that. I just want to say, obviously, good points. Now, as far as coming in from Mannahagan on that driveway, that's very narrow for trucks. I'm the contractor for the house right now. We actually can't even come down that driveway with our very small dump truck. The bridge and the pipe underneath that bridge, we don't own, the DEC owns, and it's in very poor shape. It's not feasible to bring, like I said, we can't even bring our small dump truck now from the main house across that bridge. It's extremely narrow where you go down that driveway. I can't even turn my pickup truck around. It's just a pickup truck without driving onto the lawn. So that's in disrepair that we have to see if the DEC will even allow us to pave and repair that for the main house, forget about another house. So the narrowness and disrepair and the drainage pipe and the old 300-year-old stone bridge on that would be a huge problem for construction vehicles, which it already is, and for another lot, and it's even more narrow, and the danger to Mannahagan Drive for trucks coming out of that driveway is incredible, where you're spinning your wheels and this car's flying past you. So all I'm saying is I don't want to discredit any ideas, but a couple factors of using that, I think, is severely more problematic for construction vehicles and danger to Mannahagan Drive, as well as we don't own it, makes it even more of a problem as far as agreements and improvements and things. And to say, even if we went down that route, that maybe it solves some problems for the neighbors on Davidson Drive, quite frankly, I don't think it solves problems for this board. I think we're looking at many variances, not only from this board, because that continuing driveway, lot 2, you have steep slopes, you have wetlands, so you're talking about serious variances now to build across there to get to lot 2. And once again, not to repeat myself, but we don't own it, so it adds a whole nother complication.
Well, first of all, not a steep slopes or wetlands have anything to do with variances.
We're not-
But that aside, the fact of the matter is that the issues that you raised with regard to construction vehicles, those are short-term temporary issues, which again are very important to the neighbors, but that's not actually what our variance considerations involve. We're talking about the permanent existence of the property and whether or not it's compliant with the code. What you're proposing right now is non-compliant. So what I'm trying to do is enable you to have a compliant application that in fact won't even need a variance, although the 300-year-old bridge with the pipe, it sounds to me like that might be an issue irrespective of whether or not you use this.
But it's a liability, yes, but it's a liability issue.
The new home, right? So if given the choice, would I turn out of Davidson and make a left or right on Mannahagan over turning out of the driveway, existing driveway at 420? I'd take Davidson every time. You're right on the bend, and you're now suggesting that we put another house there.
But Mr. Spearman, there's already a property that's using that exact exit, that ingress and egress point that I assume is safe enough that you're continuing to use it. So if another homeowner has to use the same exact point, you're suggesting that it would be so dangerous that it would be a non-starter for a new neighbor, but it's okay for the existing use.
It's more dangerous than exiting on Davidson, that's all.
But it's already the danger that exists for the current homeowner at lot 1. I mean, it's no different for the proposed owner of proposed lot 2.
I mean, my concern would be more that bridge and what you're saying about that in disrepair for the current house, not even this house. So that's a moot point in my mind. I mean, it needs to be addressed no matter which way you look at it. So by addressing the DEC at this point, asking about this might also solve the problem of that 300-year-old issue that they're not repairing or haven't repaired or whatever.
this is what I would like to do, because I kind of see where the board is going. We will reach out to the DEC. We will put together something that spells out what, if any, difficulties there are using Nanahagan Road as access, and then we will come back. And if this board feels that we've exhausted our alternatives and they're not feasible, then maybe the board's mind would be changed. Because right now, I don't think you're convinced that it's such a difficult thing. I think my clients know it's difficult, but they should put it in writing, and we should reach out to the DEC to see what they
At
think.
the same point, come back with, if you're looking at that, if you're saying you're for enlarging, I don't know how you're gonna enlarge Davidson Drive, that makes everybody happy across the board. I mean, I don't know where you get where that comes from, where you already have existing lines going in there from that standpoint, but if you can put that in black and white for us?
It's a 30-foot right-of-way. Right now, it's only 15 feet, so there's 15 feet more of pavement that we could add to. Again, but that's a planning board.
Excuse me.
Like I said, a picture of the plans.
Please, I can't have anybody from the peanut gallery
Point is,
hollering out.
put it on
Wait
the
a
plan,
minute,
black
Mr.
and white,
Dorr.
so people can see it.
Mr. Dorr, one moment. I think we have more questions than we have answers.
Right.
At this point. I would like to do the following. I would like to have you go to the DEP, and even under 267B, look for other types of alternatives which would have less of an impact on your project and also on the people in the area.
We will do
And then
that.
come back to us, and there's no penalization on this whatsoever.
We will do that, and of course, the other alternative is they could just tear down the pool, and then we could change the lot line, and we wouldn't even have to be here. And that was the point I made, and I understand your concerns, and they're legitimate concerns, but it's whether that variance, and you're just talking about getting the big picture, and I understand that, but it's whether that variance, that small minor variance, has an impact on a detrimental impact. And again, that has nothing to do with Davidson Drive, but nevertheless, we're going to do what you recommend. I'm going to call that guy tomorrow. Trevor's going to work on seeing how feasible it is to come down Nanahagan Road, and we'll be back here.
All right, I think that's the best thing to do at this point in time. We'll adjourn it till the next meeting, and we'll take it from there. And that gives you a month in which to go through it. It doesn't stop the construction work on the property, because there's still a lot of work on that building there.
And he's spending a small fortune there, so I don't know how much of a profit.
Believe me,
if any.
I've never met a poor contractor, okay? All right? Maybe a poor architect, but no, but you're not poor, Trevor.
You met me, I'm a poor lawyer. So,
Okay, thank you very much.
all right.
Thank you.
Last application for this evening is 24-21. Robert Astorino, owner of the property as 338 Kelly Street in Hawthorne. Good evening. Raise your right hand. Testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
So help me God.
Okay. And you're Robert Astorino, and you're the owner of the premises at 338 Kelly Street in Hawthorne, New York.
Correct.
On the tax map, it's section 89/112.12-1-43, and the application is for proposed legalization of an existing closed-in deck on a substandard parcel of 6,200 square feet in the R10 zone, correct?
I believe so.
All right, so the main concern that you're looking for is a variance for the rear yard setback. 30 feet's required, 24/7 exists. You're keeping it at 24/7, and you're looking for a 5.3 foot.
Correct.
When we were out there on Saturday, I didn't, be honest with you, after having this last meeting, I didn't really see a problem with it, as far as I'm concerned. It's an existing It's an existing deck, it's closed in.
I don't know
It's a
how
small
long
piece
it's
of
been there.
property.
It's been there quite a while. I don't know how long, though.
Yeah,
About 30
you can
years, I
see
think.
that.
Yeah.
Is that gonna be renovated, or are you gonna leave it alone, or?
Probably leave it alone for now.
Okay. If you do renovate it, please don't add more
No.
footage to it, okay? I would appreciate that. I have no further questions. Mrs. Novak?
No questions.
Okay. Mr. Dorr?
No, it was straightforward. It looked like it's been there for a while. And
Yeah.
There's nice screening all the way around it, including the pine trees right next to it, so.
Nothing, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Okay. Do I have a proposal
I'll
to,
make a motion to approve applicant 72421 as submitted.
do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Novak. Mr. Lepatos?
Aye.
Chairman votes aye, carried 4-0. Do I have a proposition to close the
Make a
meeting?
motion to close the meeting.
Okay, we close
luck.
the meeting. All right.
Thank you.
Hit the button.